Hey everybody, here I am at the National Alliance to End Homelessness, Ending Family Homelessness Conference. I always have trouble saying that every year, but it's a great conference, and I'm here with Ken Kraybill, who we first met at 100,000 Homes Leadership. They brought us in to help advise, and it was the first time that I heard of this thing called motivational interviewing. Could you tell me about that?
Sure. Really, motivational interviewing is just a matter of having a helpful conversation with somebody. We talk with people all the time and we have conversations, but oftentimes we find ourselves in situations, especially when somebody brings to us a concern or a problem, we have this impulse to want to help them, of course, and the first impulse for many of us is to just give them good advice, right? It turns out, I've discovered, and probably most people know, that advice is not something that people are real fond of, even when they ask for it, in fact. So this is true of when we do more clinical work with people who are struggling with substance use, with other kinds of behavioral health issues and behavioral issues in general, that we see people, we think, wow, if only you would just turn this direction and go that way or make that choice, things would be so much better. And then we try it, and what happens is what? People generally say, no, that's okay, I'll keep going this way,
right.
Or they go the opposite way to what we want them to do. So motivational interviewing is something that grew out of the substance use field, but it's really a way of talking with people in a way that helps to enhance their own motivation to change, as opposed to our motivation to get them to change. So I often think of it as the idea of trying to help people talk themselves into changing, as opposed to me talking you or someone into changing. So that's the essence of it, but it takes some skill. It takes some learning, it takes a mindset, it requires another way of thinking when you're in a conversation with somebody.
Basically, for us in homeless services, and I'm sure it's many different vocations, sectors can relate, where you have a client care provider relationship that you go in and you're meeting them and you're basically you have a goal of trying to direct them in a way that will help them.
Yep.
But often they don't want to do that. And in our way of meeting them and interviewing them, and I know I'm guilty, sometimes it's just like you're hitting this wall. Yeah. I have a homeless vet that I've been working with for several years that he's been in the hospital twice this month. He blew a .41 alcohol. He almost died, and I still can't. You know what I mean? So how could I? What would be your basic 101 of how to interact with him that might be able to motivate him to change?
Sure. So what you want to do is just say, stop it. Don't do that anymore.
Right. You're killing yourself. We love you. Don't do it.
Well, after you've tried that,
right? We're past that about 20,000 times.
Then we go to Plan B.
Right.
It turns out that you would think that if somebody suffered lots and lots of consequences from their behavior, they would naturally just turn around and say, "This is crazy. I'm moving on." That's not how human beings seem to work. We just dig ourselves deeper and deeper into a hole. Whether you call it hitting bottom or whatever it is, but something has to shift, and it doesn't take just negative consequences usually for people to shift. It takes something else, and we can call it motivation, we can call it being ready, willing, and able, but there's something that has to shift, a tipping point basically, where somebody says, oh, yeah, maybe I should try something different. And in motivational interviewing, the language we use is we try to have a conversation that draws out from the person what their own needs, desires are, what kind of life they really want to have, how that's dissonant from the life they're living. Not to guilt trip them, but just to help them, to shine a light on it. Say, so help me understand. You want to live, you want to be friends, you want to do this, you're blowing a .41?
Yeah.
You should be dead, But the question would be, if I were to encounter that person, would be, first to show some empathy. Wow. And probably just to be very simply begin to explore. So tell me, what went on before you found yourself imbibing like that, and tell me how this fits with everything else. I mean, I'm being very general right now, but
Right.
what you do is you start from the general and you start having a more concrete conversation all along. And eventually, a conversation might lead to saying things like, so tell me what are the good things about what's happening in your life right now, including the alcohol consumption.
Right.
You know, what are the good things about that for you? Because the premise is people engage in behavior because they're trying to meet a need. Even if that attempt to meet the need is totally screwing up their lives, people still, I believe, are trying to meet a need. So to try to understand, so what is the need maybe there? Is it loneliness? Is it anxiety that you're self-medicating? Is it just you want to obliterate yourself? Pain? It can be anything, and we can't name that for people. They need to name it for themselves.
And the alcohol or drugs itself also has a lot of power, and so.
Yeah, and we can't argue with the fact that heroin, methamphetamine, alcohol, whatever it is, it works for a while. You know.
I was there.
Yeah.
I was worse than the worst.
I mean,
How would I learn, say, if I'm out there and I'm viewing this and I want to learn how to, I'm giving you a perfect segue here. So, how would I learn about motivational interviewing?
Gosh. Well, there are a number of ways to do that. Motivational interviewing has come to be known as an evidence-based practice, meaning that it's been tried and tested with a variety of populations, well beyond people who use alcohol and drugs. And so for people who want to control or manage various behaviors, chronic illness, lose weight, eat better, exercise more, and beyond, you can read about it, you can do that, but if you want to help other people change, reading about it is insufficient usually, because you have to change your own behavior and how you interact. And so almost always it requires some combination of reading, perhaps going to a workshop or two, maybe taking an online course. I mean, people learn in lots of different ways and they learn over time. But I happen to work for an organization that...
It took you a while to get there, but we did. We finally got there.
But I'm a little slow. Right, a little slow because, you know... but the reality is, I mean, there are a variety of places people can turn. So T3 is a training institute.
Right.
Think, teach, transform is the 3 T's. But we have begun to kind of specialize our focus on people working with low-income, underserved, vulnerable, homeless populations, and help equip people who are working in the field of all disciplines to have a helpful conversation with people that goes well beyond advice giving, which typically doesn't work. And so what it means is helping people learn to think reflectively, to think in an evocative way, to pull out from the person what they already know, to operate in a collaborative way. So we're together in this search. We're not pitted against each other. We dance, we don't wrestle, you know, some of the language we use. But it's also a very compassionate way of being with somebody, because you're actually respectful of where they're at and helping them understand where they're at, because only then, I think, does it become possible for people to examine where they want to go.
Well, it's spot on. I've actually taken the course on motivational interviewing. I just get emotionally attached sometimes, like with my current homeless friend that I'm trying to... Sure. But it's very professional, online. Yes, I'm going to do the pitch. Go to thinkt3.com. There's a free course on homelessness in America, stuff I didn't even know. It's amazing. It's free. But the courses on case management, motivational interviewing are very cost effective, especially in today's landscape of zero funding or funding going away and disappearing. But we need to get better. We need to improve, and education is a big part of it. So I'm going to come right out and say I do endorse Think T3. I love what they're doing. So please visit the site and say hello to Ken, because I'm going to put his Twitter handle under here so that you can all say hello to him on Twitter. So
awesome. Thanks.